everybody. Pen here with Yogacises. Today, I'm thrilled to have Ara here. And I met her in the 10X Ambassadors program. I mentioned that yesterday, too. I'm having a few of the ambassadors on here. She reached out to me and about leadership and asking how she could help, and we connected. And then now she's doing hypnotherapy, right? Hypnotherapy? Right. Yes. Okay. So I'll let you tell your story, how you started with leadership first, and then now you're transitioning to focusing on more on hypnotherapy and how that all started.
Right. So, ever since I was much younger, I actually grew up in a very poor, sort of a negative family environment. So growing up in that environment, it really didn't help my self-esteem or confidence or anything like that at all. So I grew up and had a lot of pent-up anger and negativity, in my mindset. Hated it. I just didn't know how to change it. And there was nobody to teach me or guide me on, how to live a happy life. So in my early 20s, I came across some really good people, and they started showing me on how to do self-improvement and grow myself. So back then, all I really had was a bunch of books like Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad Poor Dad, all of those basic books that most people are aware of. I read them, really liked it. I really got hooked onto it because that just kind of showed me a whole new world that I never knew existed. And so I just kept on reading books after books after books after books. And it brought a lot of positivity in my life, and I was able to work on my, the different negative parts of my personality, and felt very happy and fulfilled with that. But all at the same time, I really didn't know how to truly make transformation. So later on, I went through some really dark times in my life, even, in my 20s, in my early 30s. And I thought, okay, there's gotta be a way to really just make some big, big changes. And I came across John Maxwell from, all the books that I've been reading, and just one led to another. And I loved his books because he is the true master of leadership. And I thought, wow, this guy is great. He makes it really easy to implement. And then all of a sudden I saw his ad about, becoming a certified coach under his company. And I thought, holy crap, I was thinking about how I can really make changes, not only for me, but for other people. And I was really getting into his books, and all of a sudden his ad shows up right in front of my face. And so I thought, wow, maybe this is really what I should look into. And so I decided to go ahead and sign up and started training with his materials. And I just fell in love, got certified, talked to a lot of people, helped a lot of people. And I loved it, but there was still something missing. There was like one puzzle piece that was still missing, and I couldn't find the answer, or I couldn't find that puzzle piece. And that missing puzzle piece was, even though I can coach myself or other people and really lead them to find answers within themselves, there was still some blocks, right? Emotional blocks, subconscious blocks that people just could not get over or overcome. They knew the concepts of overcoming it, but they really couldn't put that into practice and make it a long-term success. And I also experienced that myself. I knew that I had many blocks, emotional baggages, But no matter how much I try to hide it or cover it up or replace it with something, it was always a struggle. So then again, I was in search for, okay, how do I unblock these blocks? How do I really free myself and others and really help them to bridge across those, seemingly impossible mission tasks or whatever you want to call it. So then I came across hypnotherapy, but specifically RTT, which stands for Rapid Transformational Therapy. And it's a very unconventional form of hypnotherapy where it's a form of hypnotherapy, but it uses a lot of other modalities to really get to the bottom of the root cause of whatever your problem is. And so we investigate, we find the problem, and we, rewire the beliefs subconsciously and really change your values and beliefs, because that's really where your habits are, your thinking processes are. So when I started to learn about that method and started to see healing in myself and was unblocking my blocks and really felt the huge change, I thought, oh my goodness, this is what a lot of people need. So again, I got certified. I fell in love with it. I truly feel that this is my calling, and I've helped people from insomnia to panic attacks to depressions, to having more self-confidence, self-love, self-respect. Because really, if you don't have that level of confidence, love, and respect for yourself, how can you go out there and create something big, right? Whether that's in business or just in life with family and friends. And so I love the fact that I can now really just help people make those subconscious changes, basically rebuild their foundation. And then from there, I coach them to sort of guide them to, okay, how do you change your lifestyle now that your beliefs are changed? Okay, now that you have your depression out of the way, the addictions are gone. Okay, now how do you, live your life in this with your new self, right? So I'm able to integrate coaching and hypnotherapy together and just really create some profound changes in people's lives.
Wow, those two are really great combinations to work with.
Yes.
They definitely know those books that helped over the years. My question is, can you give like a specific example of it could be happened to you, or it could be a client, or some sort of scenario where before starting the treatment or session, and then over time and how the shift.
Okay. Sure. So I can give you an example from my personal experience as well as some of my clients. So for my personal experience, out of all the many blocks that I had in my life, one of the problems that I had was just really severe insomnia. And I've experienced that insomnia since I was a teenager, all the way up until about, I would say, about last year. And then it started to kind of, it wasn't as bad, but I was still kind of struggling with sleeping. So I would always have to either use some kind of outer source, whether it's like a sleeping pill or drink some wine, or, I couldn't sleep while I was totally just sober, right? I needed some kind of aid to help me sleep. Either that, or I had to lay down in bed for hours before I can fall asleep. So I had one of my colleagues do a session on me about, okay, why do I have this insomnia? What was the trigger? And so RTT consists of, putting you in hypnosis, and then we regress you back to your childhood, whatever that may be. It can be when you were a teenager, when you were a toddler, when you were, even some people have regressions of when they were in the mom's womb. It's very fascinating. But so when she regressed me back, I told you that I, came from a very negative family environment. So, I had, angry dad, angry brother. I've had some abuse in my life as well. I had a lot of pent up anger. So we didn't really have a great relationship between us, although we were living in the same house. And so I regress back to scenes like, okay, I had to sleep to go to school the next day, but because we lived in a small apartment, I could hear everything. And my dad, he loved watching TV really late at night, and he would like turn up the volume like crazy. And he was not considerate of any of us. Either that, or I would listen to my parents fighting, or my dad getting mad and he's just screaming and yelling and cursing or what have you, right? So I had several scenes of those. And I would have dreams about him abusing me and stuff like that. So I would wake up telling myself, oh my God, I don't want to go back to sleep. Like, I'm tired of having these dreams. So after coming up with different scenes like that, the conclusion was basically, okay, anywhere that I considered home, right? Because I slept well when I'm on vacation, or, when I was in Miami for the 10X conference, I slept very well there. But anywhere that I considered home, I couldn't sleep because my mind associated home with a place of discomfort, a place that's unsafe, a place of anger, a place where I cannot just be relaxing. So my colleague, she rewired those beliefs and, gave me a whole new set of beliefs to replace it with when I was still under the hypnosis, and transform my values, my beliefs, my thoughts. And ever since then, I can sleep just without even thinking about if I'm going to ever fall asleep or not. I don't have to use any aids anymore. I don't have to lay there for hours to sleep. I just lay there, and within 20, 30 minutes, or sometimes even sooner, I'll fall asleep and I feel refreshed in the morning and it feels great. So that's an example of my personal experience. Mm-hmm. I had a client who also had problems with being or having this perfectionism personality. And she also had some sleep issues, but in her case, she can fall asleep, but she would wake up every morning around 2 or 3 in the morning, and she could not go back to sleep for hours, and it was driving her crazy. So when I got her into hypnosis and we regressed her back to, where did it start? What was the trigger point? So she told me that she was 1 out of 8 children, and she was maybe the 2nd or the 3rd oldest. And because there was so many kids, her mom, she didn't have time to give each one of them love and the attention. But she was starved for attention and love. So because her mom was so tired and stressed with all of these children, she had her do a lot of chores or taking care of the baby siblings and cleaning up and all of that stuff. And although she hated it because she was still a child, she was still yearning for love and connection from her mom, but she had to be sort of the second mom, right? So she was washing dishes, doing laundry, feeding, the baby sisters and brothers, cleaning up after them, changing their diapers. And in her mind, even though she hated doing that, she needed to do a perfect job so that her mom could compliment her or give her some attention. Because other than that, she would never get anything. So she did everything perfectly. Even though she made some mistakes or whatever, she would clean it up herself or take care of it herself and make it seem like she did a great job, just so that she can get some attention from her mom. And another thing that happened was, because they didn't have 8-10 rooms in their home, the mom put maybe like 2 or 3 cribs in her room with the baby brothers and sisters. And it was her job to wake up every 3 hours or 4 hours or whatever it was to give them the bottle, right? And she was 9, 10, around that time. And what kid is going to like that, right? But again, she wanted to impress her mom. So she woke up every morning around 2 or 3 o'clock to give the bottles to her baby brothers and sisters. And she did this for years, right? And so what's the connection there? She has problems. She's right now in her 30s. She has a problem with, perfectionism. She can't stay asleep. She has to wake up every 2, 3 in the morning, right? Her mind was basically conditioned. Hey, you have to have that perfectionism to get the attention and love. Hey, you have to wake up at this time every night, because when you were young, you took that as, oh, this is how I'm going to get attention and love from mom or whoever she wants to get the attention from, right? So when you're young, when you're a child, children don't have the brain capacity to really process information, right? They don't have the ability to reason and analyze. They just take it as is, right? Whatever they're feeling, whatever they're seeing, they just kind of soak it up and attach very plain, simple meaning to it. Like, oh, my mom doesn't love me unless I do this. Oh, I'm not going to get love unless I do this. For me, it was, oh man, I am always angry. I'm always upset. I can't sleep. And every time that happened, it was in a home environment. So it's very fascinating to know how our minds are so complicated, but at the same time, it's so simple, right? It just takes as is. And that's really how the subconscious mind works. It just takes everything as is. It's not going to reason with you. Whatever emotion you're feeling at that time is the meaning that you're going to attach to. So those are a couple of the cases that I had, with doing hypnotherapy. That and then after I've done that session for her, and I've again attached a new belief, new state of being and thoughts and stuff, and now she sleeps throughout the night. And, she feels more at ease about doing any type of projects or assignments. She doesn't have to sit there and try to make everything perfect. So she told me that she feels so much more comfortable, so much more laid back. Yep.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm so glad that you're able to help. You help yourself and help others.
Oh, yeah. It's a very fulfilling career to have, for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned as you're talking, sharing the stories, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can relate to this. I know somebody who's been through that. Mm-hmm. And another thing is, you mentioned about the whole complexity of and the simplicity of the mind. I think like we almost subconsciously making it complicated, even though it's not, through our experiences and everything.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why we refer children as sponges, right? We say, oh yeah, kids are like sponges. They just soak up everything. They just absorb everything. Well, that's because when kids are at that age, let's say from the 3rd trimester to the age of 6 or 7, they're in that hypnotic stage. Their brain waves are very slow. And this is why infants sleep every 2 hours, is because their brain waves are in a delta state. It's very slow. Delta state is a sleep state. Whenever we're in deep sleep, our brain waves slow down, and babies are just naturally in that state. So that's why they can't help but to fall asleep. And, when they're toddlers, they're in that theta state, which is the drowsy state, like about to fall asleep, sort of. That's also the imaginary state. And that's why kids can do, pretend, and they have a lot of imagination. So when they're in that state, they're in sort of like a trance-like state where whatever they see, whatever they feel, they're just gonna soak it up and program it into their mind involuntarily. They don't know that they're doing this. But that's why environment is so important, because what you soak up at that young age, when you had no capabilities to reason and analyze, that really shapes up your personality as an adult, and it carries out throughout your life until to the point where you consciously realize what's going on and train yourself back to reprogramming that old, programming that you had. Yeah. So.
And you're speaking of the stages, very crucial to have positive stimuli, like interactions with them. And it's because going through a lot of like traumatic events and all these things, even though they've experienced it, they acknowledge it at that moment, but then later on they might forget about the incident, or it just might be in the back of their mind subconsciously still affecting them. And then their behavior, they might not even notice that it's because of this. That's why what you do can really bring them back and find the deep root of the problem.
Right. I mean, most of the time, many people, all of us, right? Every one of us, when you actually sit there and think about what you're actually thinking, right? Because we think about probably 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And most of those thoughts are repeated thoughts, right? We are thinking the same thoughts, right? We're basically playing the recordings over and over and over again. Well, why is that? It's because that's what's programmed into our subconscious mind. And, to change those thoughts, you just really have to be aware of, okay, what am I doing? What am I thinking? Is this really benefiting my life? And if it isn't, then how could I make those changes? And it's really hard for people to notice things like that because they're so caught up emotionally about what they're thinking. Why are some people always angry, or why are some people always depressed or sad or feeling sorry for themselves? Is because most of them, and I've felt this, I'm sure you felt this, we always think that we're just not good enough. And where do we get that thought that we're not good enough? Because we were all born with the utmost confidence. I mean, you have a small child, and I do too. I mean, I have a 5-year-old, and yours is a 2-year-old?
20 months, almost 2.
So almost 2, right? So if you look at your daughter, right? Does she ever care that she's pooping her diapers, that you are cleaning her, her, all that mess? Or does she care if she has food all over her face? I mean, she doesn't care if you're sleeping or if you're busy. If she wants your attention, she's going to cry and get your attention, right? That's how all babies are like that, right? Well, why is that? It's because they know that they deserve that attention. They deserve that love. They are confident, right? They are confident that if they scream out and cry, that someone's going to come in and meet their needs, right? And so we were all born with that confidence, that thought of, I am deserving, I am good, like I can receive love. But as we get older, we get conditioned and programmed from our teachers, from, it can be our parents, our siblings, our friends, the media telling us, well, you're not good enough unless you get an A. You're not good enough unless you can, look a certain way, or you see what I'm saying? So it's just all a conditioning. And as long as we can recognize that and just be open to change and really take the steps to reprogram your subconscious. And of course, this can take time. It's not an overnight success, but consistency is key, right? And we can always go back to that part of ourselves who always knew that we were good enough to receive whatever it is that we want to receive, whether that is love, money, happiness, what have you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what was I gonna ask? So, speaking of the influences of people as people get older through like teachers or friends or family, and it has a lot to do with the environment, like where the family is located just in general. And especially when you're at that age, you can determine and say, okay, this is not the environment I want to be in. I want to relocate to somewhere where I can be better. So you're almost like not having the freedom of like basically choosing it. So eventually you're just going to have to find a way to basically bring yourself back into that state, and then more in control later on to change the outcome.
Right. Because when we're young, I mean, what choices do we have, right? I mean, we just kind of go by with what our parents tell us to do, what our teachers tell us to do, and we're just sort of guided, right? Really not knowing what's right and wrong. But as we, become older and become fully grown adults, and we have, total control over where we're going to live, how we're going to, interact with others, we have that power to make our own choices, right? So it's never too late. It doesn't matter how old you are, whether you are still in your teens, your 20s, 30s, or even 60s or 70s, as long as you are open to that change and you want that change. Because emotion always beats logic. So even though you may think, oh man, I'm too old for this, or, I don't have the skills to do whatever it is. But if you want it bad enough, right? That's your emotions, right? If you want it bad enough, then it'll always beat logic. You'll always find a way to find answers for yourself. So we're all emotional creatures, right? I mean, everything that we do, we make our decisions really by our emotions. If we feel like we want it, then we go ahead and do it. If we feel like it's right, then we go ahead and take that next step. And even though everything seems really good, if for some reason, you don't feel right about it and your gut tells you, oh, there's something not good about me taking that next step, then they're not going to do it. Well, most of the time, some people do it and then, it really backfires on them. But yeah, so, and many of us, we all had some kind of a dysfunction in our, early childhood, in our family lives, right? I mean, I would probably say that there are more people that came from a negative environment than a positive one. And so we all go through that, but then we all have choices. So there is no exception. I mean, it's just all about, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do for yourself? What is your life's purpose? How do you want to live? And if you can answer those questions and you can answer them right, then you can always find ways to change. Definitely.
So what if, let's just say the person really wants to change, and deep down inside the person knows, okay, I need to change, but then as maybe they'll share it with friends or family, and then they tell them, okay, you can't do it, it's not going to work, and blah, blah, blah. And instead of having like a deep, what is that? What is the word? Can't think of the term, but basically they're not strong enough to say, it doesn't matter what other people say, I'm still going to do it because I know that it's going to help me later on. But then they ended up just not weak, but like always, just not always, oh my gosh, like basically just ended up following what they're saying instead of going with what they
and that happens a lot, right? That happens all the time. I mean, I see it all the time, and hey, sometimes I get influenced by other people too, but the thing is that, you know, most of us, we always find something outside of us to create those changes, right? We always look for something outside of like our being, something else to happen for us to feel happy, for us to feel like we've accomplished something, or to feel sad or mad or feel like you're good enough, right? And that's why people, some people, they're always shopping, they're always buying, right? Because they think that buying something that's pretty or buying something that looks really good, something that could impress others, will make themselves feel better. But once they purchase whatever that is, I mean, it could be a car, it could be a dress, it could be a purse, it could be jewelry. It may make you feel good at the moment, but that feeling soon goes away, doesn't it? I mean, I went through this myself too, where I was just buying things left and right. Like back in the days when eBay was like a huge thing. But every time I bought it and I got it and I was like, wow, I got this thing and it's so awesome. And then soon that feeling will go away and then I'll go back to shopping, right? So people are always looking for something outside of them to make them feel a certain way, but it's always temporary. It never lasts. And I'm sure many people listening to this can agree to that. What creates long-term fulfillment, long-term happiness? You know, how can you really love and be good with yourself? And that's when you have to really look within, you know, because everything that you see in life, whether it's the people around you or the situation that you're in, it's always a reflection of who you are as a person. And at first that can be really hard to admit and swallow. But because I used to do that, right? I used to, like I said, I used to be a very angry person. I had a lot of pent up anger in me. So I was always complaining. I was always mad. I mean, the smallest things would piss me off and I would either flip out or pick a fight or road rage or, you know, all of that. And then at the same time, I could not understand why my life is the way it is. And I was just like blaming the world, right? I'm like, well, you know, I'm better than that person. Why does that person have this and that and I don't? Or, you know, I think I'm a good person, but why don't I have this and that? Well, so eventually, when you really look inside yourself, right? What can you change about yourself to make things better in your life, right? What part of your personality can you tweak and improve to make things better so that you can respond better, so you can react better, or you can accept more things? And then if other people around you, whether it's your family, your friends, your husband, your boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever, if they're influencing you in such a way that it's not really empowering you, let's say that you want to do something big, right? Let's say you want to become an entrepreneur. You want to start a business and you start telling, you know, everybody around you like, hey, I got this idea. I'm going to, you know, do this and do that. And it's going to be great. And everybody's like, you? Like, no, you can't do that. That's impossible. You know, just be happy with what you have, you know, go to your job and get a paycheck and, you know, just have your, you know, health insurance and your 401k and be happy with that. But you think to yourself, okay, well, maybe that makes sense. You know, maybe I don't have the strength to do all of that stuff for myself. And maybe I should just be thankful where I am, right? Because you're going to automatically think those thoughts. But still, somewhere deep inside, you know, you got to do something different, right? Well, at that point, you got to think to yourself, okay, those people who are telling me not to do what I want to do, how are they living, right? Their life, their jobs, their bank account, is that what I want? You know, do I really need to listen to what they're saying? Because if you do end up listening to what they're saying, it means that you're accepting the fact that you're going to receive what they have, or accept the fact that you're okay with what you have right now. And then your life will just go back to being mundane and same routine over and over, right? Now, if the people around you are successful and they have the life that you want, they have the attitude that you want, they have the bank account that you want, then yeah, go ahead and listen to them. But just know that your peers, your family, although they mean well, that because they didn't do it, they're going to think that it's impossible for you too. So you really have to know how to differentiate. Okay, is that person worthy enough, for me to give them my attention? Do I really want to be like that person? Do they have what I want? And if the answer is no, then that should make your decision very easy. Like, forget you. Thank you for your opinion, but I'm going to go ahead and do what I think I should do. I experienced the same thing where I would tell my family and friends that I'm going to do such and such, and they're kind of looking at me like I'm crazy, right? Like, you're going to be a coach? Hypnotherapy, hypnosis? Are you going to knock people out and, tell them to, like, I don't know, cock like a chicken or whatever? And I look at them, I'm like, they have no idea what those things are. They've never had a coach themselves. They've never experienced a transformation through hypnotherapy. They're, going to their 9-to-5 jobs, always complaining about everything. And they just want to win the lottery, right? I don't want to live like them. So yeah, even though they mean well, you just got to know that it's just not going to benefit you. Yeah.
Like, even if the people that ended up listening to the others, deep down inside, they're struggling because they know that that's not what they meant to be or do. So eventually it could take longer than what they planned, but eventually they're going to circle back to what they're destined.
Right. I mean, if you know that there is something missing in your life, right, and you're yearning for whatever, like, you might not know at the moment, but you know that something is missing, you know that you're capable of doing something more, you just don't know what it is, but, where your focus goes, your energy flows. So if you are focusing on, okay, how can I figure out what it is that I want to do? How can I find out what my talents are? The more those beneficial questions that you can ask for yourself, then your mind will sooner or later give you those answers and open up the pathway for you to follow whatever your dreams are. But most people don't ask the how question. They ask the why question. Why me? Or why not me? Like how I used to do. Like, why do they have that and I don't? And that doesn't give you anything beneficial. It just makes you complain more. So definitely the type of questions that you ask for yourself is very important, and it makes a difference.
When we first started talking and you were asking me I was asking you what I should do, because I tend to ask for opinions of others because I'm indecisive, undecisive. Anyway, and the way that you answered my questions were you asking me questions. I'm like, nobody ever did that with me. Like, they would just answer my questions, or things like that. There's never like them asking me back, and it kept me thinking. I'm like more. Yeah.
And that's really the basis of coaching, right? Coaching is all about not when most people think about coaching, they think about sports coaches, right? Football coaches, basketball coaches, where they kind of tell you what to do or how to do it. But a life coach, a leadership coach, is not about giving that person all the answers. I'm not your teacher. I am not your mentor. My job as a coach is to guide you in such a way that you can find the answers within yourself, because our minds are so brilliant. They have all the answers that you ever seek in your life, but you just have to ask the right questions, because one of the rules of your mind is that the mind will always give you what it thinks that you want, right? So most people, what do they think about? they focus more on what they don't want. I don't want to get fat. I don't want to be broke. I don't like this job. I don't like my house. I don't like my car. I don't want to be stuck in traffic, right? They always focus on what they don't want. And if you ever ask people, what is it that they really want? For instance, most people don't have goals, right? So if you ever ask a person, hey, what do you want to do in 5 years time, 10 years time? Like, what are your life's goals? Most people don't have answers to that. So for instance, like when I see my clients, and one of the very first questions that I ask them is, what is it that you want out of this session today? And surprisingly and not surprisingly, they will start answering me by telling me what they don't want. I don't want to feel depressed. I don't want to cry. I don't want to smoke. I don't want to hate that person, or right? I don't want to have low self-esteem. And then I have to redirect them. I asked you, what do you want? Tell me what you want. And then they can't answer that directly. They have to go, and then they start thinking. And that tells you that most people do not concentrate on what they want. But if you did, then your mind will start giving you the right answers that you're searching for. So you never have to look outside of you. The answers are all within you. So coaching is about having you realize that you can get all the answers that you ever wanted. Yep.
That's great. It just like you remind me of, the other day, I was just talking to my husband. My husband was asking, what do you want? And then I was literally like listing all the things that I didn't want. But I'm like, you're asking me what I want? I listed all the things that I don't want, then you know what I want.
Yeah. And you know what? That's just how our society programs us. They always, the media, look at the media. They always let us know how we shouldn't be, what needs to be done for us to feel good enough. And when you feel that lack, right? Oh God, she's prettier than me, or oh man, he's fitter than I am. Oh God, they have more money than I do. And you kind of start comparing yourself to everything, and you start to feel that lack. Then when you come from a place of lack, you're never going to feel abundant. You're never going to feel enough. So then you're going to start to get into that state of complaining. God, I don't want that. I don't want this to happen. I don't want to do that. So it's as soon as you can change your state of mind, and it takes time to get yourself to be programmed that way, because, we're habitual beings. So once we are locked into a habit, it's so hard to break it, right? But as soon as you can break that habit and replace it with something that's more helpful, then things become a lot easier. So then before, when it was so hard for you to not think about what you don't want, once you can break that habit, be consciously aware of the fact that you have that habit that's hurting you, and start to really consciously retrain yourself to have a more of a helpful habit, then soon you're going to realize that your thought processes are, okay, what do I want today? How do I want to feel today? How do I want to interact with others today? What do I want to accomplish today? Like that. Yeah.
So what are the few simple steps that you will give for somebody in terms of like changing habits gradually?
Well, let's say first thing is consistency. It is a proven fact that it takes about 21 days to break a habit and form a new one. But because we live in such an instant gratification society, most of us don't have the patience that our parents might have had, or our grandparents might have had, right? We want everything right then and there. So First thing is consistency. You have to really discipline yourself to stay consistent with whatever it is that you're doing. I hear people, tell me all the time, like, oh man, I can never do that. Or, we talk about like the 10X ambassadors, we talk about beating the sun up, right? So we're all motivated to beat the sun up, wake up really early and prime ourselves and train ourselves, right? But outside of that group, the people that you meet, in your local area, your friends, your family, when I tell people that I wake up 4 a.m. every morning, they're like, oh my God, I could never do that. How can you ever wake up that early? Oh my God, I would kill myself then to wake up that early. Well, if you have that type of mindset, you're never going to change. I'm actually doing a workshop at a boot camp gym in my local area about weight loss. Because weight loss also has a lot to do with your mindset, right? It's all psychology, right? So some of the things that I run into is like, let's talk about, okay, well, if you want to lose weight, you have to not eat junk food, right? You have to refrain yourself from junk food. Let's say pizza, right? A lot of people like pizza, right? And a lot of people will go, oh, I could never give up pizza. That's my favorite, I eat that once a week. Like, I love it, right? Well, if you keep telling your mind that you love something, right? Even though you know it's not good for you, the mind doesn't care. It's only going to draw you in more to the thing that you label as love, right? That's why most diets fail. Because you're trying to force yourself to not eat something that you like and eat something that you don't like. And you keep telling yourself, God, I want this pizza, but I must eat a salad. But I love the pizza, but I must eat the salad. Well, then your brain is going to go, eat the pizza, And so, so you really have to be very aware of what you're thinking about, right? Okay, whatever it is that I love, whether it is pizza or sleeping in, is that thing really helping me in my life, right? People talk about, oh, I don't have enough time to do this and I don't have enough time to do this. Like, oh, I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to read a book. Well, we all have 24 hours in a day and we make the time for what is important to us, right? So then you really have to think, okay, what is more beneficial for me to really change and improve my life? Is it the sleeping in? Or is it waking up an hour earlier to get my day started? So you really have to make that choices wisely. But most people make choices on their emotions, right? So if they know that they love sleeping in, if they know that, when the alarm goes off at 4 a.m. and they're so tired and they don't want to get out of bed. Who wants to get out of bed, right? I don't want to do that either. But at that moment, when you think to yourself, oh God, I don't want to get out of bed, immediately you have to think, okay, why am I getting out of bed? Why did I make the decision to get up earlier in the morning? And you have to remind yourself of that consistently, because otherwise your mind is always going to go back to what's familiar. And it's always going to move away from what is unfamiliar. So that's why knowing your why, having that clear why is so important, because that's what's going to get you up and going. But most people don't know their whys. People say, well, I want to have success so that I can have more money. Well, money is not a very great motivator. Right. So then you have to really dig deep, and digging deep inside of yourself is very uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. You don't want to do it. You don't want to figure something about yourself that is very like degrading or may discourage you or make you feel like you're stupid or a loser, right? So most people try to stay away from digging deep, asking the really meaningful questions, so instead they distract themselves with what? Their phones, TV, right? Or going out with their friends. Some people will distract themselves by eating or drinking, right? There's all kinds of distractions. So you have to be willing to ask yourselves the hard questions, because that is the only way you're going to change, is to jump into the unknown. And that'll come with practice, just like anything else. We learned everything by practicing, right? Walking, running, driving, studying, reading. I mean, we did all of that by practice. So we can make more changes just by knowing what you want, having that clarity, keeping it consistent, building that self-discipline, and just practice it over and over and over again until it just becomes a natural part of who you are. It just becomes your habit, right? Yeah.
A lot of takeaways. I gotta no pen and paper. I should have been more prepared, but I'm gonna jot down some and I'm glad to be this.
Yeah, we could have another chat outside of this. I have no problem doing that for you.
Yeah, I get a lot from you every time we talk. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad I could help.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Well, if I would add anything else, it's just knowing how the mind works, right? So 95% of what we do or what we think about on a daily basis is on autopilot, right? Everything we do is routine, right? We get up the same way out of bed in the morning. We have coffee in the same time at the same spot. We dress the same way. We take a shower the same way. Like everything we do is routine, right? Like we don't even have to think about it. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced it too, where you're driving to maybe your job or back home, and you've done that a million times. So you can be on the phone, eat while you're driving, or even think about something else, and your body just automatically drives you back home. And sometimes you think, how did I get here, right? It's because our body is conditioned over and over again to do the same things. And when you think about it like that, right? When 95% of everything that you do and think on a daily basis is on autopilot, are you really making changes, right? Are you really making new things happen in your life? Not really. And so then if you can really get that and accept that fact, then that will make you think, well, okay, then how can I start to make changes little by little? So then you really have to understand how your mind works, and especially your subconscious mind, because your subconscious mind is the emotional mind. It's the feeling mind, right? Whatever you feel, like let's say that you get angry, I don't know, at your husband, at your coworkers, or even at your child, right? That emotion, right? Whatever you attach that emotion to, whatever that event was, then your subconscious mind just soaks it up and starts to download it into your system, right? So then if you can really get that concept, you're going to be very mindful of how you're going to control your emotions, right? And then that can be the start of making changes a little bit at a time. And so I gave you a couple of the rules of the mind earlier, but another rule of the mind is that your mind can never accept conflicting beliefs. So that's why I say that most diets fail, because you say, I love pizza, but I must not eat it. I must have a salad, but I love pizza. Those are two conflicting beliefs, aren't they? So then your mind is always going to go back to what you actually like, right? It's kind of like why people procrastinate, right? They have to do, marketing. They have to network when it comes to building a business, right? And they know they have to do it, but maybe they feel uncomfortable doing it. Maybe they don't know how to do it. Maybe they're shy or whatever. So then they're like, okay, I have to build my business, but I hate talking to people. I have to get clients, but I hate talking to people. Well, if you keep coming up with those conflicting beliefs, then they're going to cancel each other out, and you're going to always go back to what's more familiar to you, which is procrastinate and find other distractions, right? So So anytime you're thinking about something, anytime you come to a point of making a decision or choosing what to do during your day, then you have to think, okay, what it is that I really want, and what are the conflicting beliefs? What is familiar to me and what is unfamiliar to me, and how can I swap that around? So instead of saying I have to, or I can't, or I must, you have to say, I choose to do this. I have chosen to do this. Because when you speak to your mind in that manner, then your mind takes that as, okay, you're not forcing anything. You're wanting to, you're choosing to do it. So then it'll give you more energy, more motivation to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. But when you say that you can't, or you mustn't, or you couldn't, then that urge to do whatever it is that you shouldn't do is going to go up. That's why there's a saying, you always want what you can't have, right? It's because the more you tell yourself you can't have it, the more you want it. And that's exactly how the mind works.
That's why my mother-in-law was saying, because at that time I was doing a detox, and I was telling her, I can't have this, I can't have that. And she's like, don't say that, say choose.
Yeah.
Exactly what you were referring to.
Yes, exactly. And it just makes everything so much easier for you. And that's just another habit that you have to break, because we're so used to saying, oh, I can't, or, oh, I couldn't, or, so it's just all about reconditioning the language that you speak to yourself and to others. And, really choosing to be very selective in in your thoughts, right? In your own words, because many, many, many times we are the most critical to ourselves, right? We talk to ourselves like we hate ourselves. But if our best friend, if our spouse talk to us like we talk to ourselves, we'll be like, what the hell? Like, how could you, and that'll get into an argument or a fight, or you would totally dismiss them, right? But we do that to ourselves. So we have to be kinder to ourselves and be more sensitive in the way we speak to our own minds. Yeah.
Yeah, so true. All right, let's see. How do people reach you? Like, where can they connect with you on social media?
So for them to know more about what I do, so far as coaching and RTT goes, people can visit my website at www.ara, and that's ARA-ko.com. So it's my name with a dash in the middle. And there are plenty of information there about what coaching is all about, what RTT hypnotherapy is all about, and how to get on a call with me. And of course, there's all kinds of social media links that you can click onto on my website as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking your time to do this.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. It was really awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh yeah, before we go, last time I didn't do this. I'm just gonna end the recording right now, but
Okay.
yeah.